We are endlessly dying, Warburton said. We begin dying when we are born. A short time later, we die, by universal consent, more or less. This is known as death. In time, the so-called resurrection of the body takes place. Soul and body become joined in what we have already defined as the state of death. But although we are in the state of death, we are not dead because body and soul are intact once again, and there is no recourse but to resume the process of dying, or if you will, the process of living. The words are interchangeable, really, and since this process of dying goes on for all eternity, we cannot be said to be waiting for death, nor are we looking back on death for the simple reason that we cannot look back on something which is not there, but here. In this paradoxical, redundant, and somewhat comical passage, what Augustine is getting at beyond all the gibberish is that death never dies, and that man shall remain forever in the state of death. There is always the chance, of course, that I have misunderstood every word. I managed to obtain a key to the multi-lith room. I can't read. I run off the copies after midnight and then distribute them. If I'm not able to get it all done before the daybreak, I distribute the remaining copies during lunchtime, as was the case yesterday. I work quickly and stealthily. Naturally, I'm above suspicion. Why, hello, BookTube. I blundered my way through that quote. We are here to talk about Americana by Don DeLillo. If you like your own copy, you can use my affiliate link to bookshop.org. If you use it to purchase this book or any book, you get an awesome book at narcs cost yourself. I get a small commission. It's a great way to help support the channel. You can also support the channel by liking, sharing, subscribing, all that fun stuff. And finally, there are timestamps down below if you'd like to skip around within this video. About Don DeLillo, if you ever wondered how novels can capture the static of modern life, the endless ads, the background noise, the fear of humming beneath it all, Don DeLillo is a writer who turns that chaos into art. From white noise to underworld, his books dissect America's obsessions with consumerism, technology, and identity, making him one of the most important voices in contemporary fiction. Don DeLillo was born in 1936 in the Bronx. As of this recording, he's still alive. In his early years, at least I think he's still alive. I hope he's still alive. I'm saying he's alive. In his early years in New York, shaped the way he saw America's culture of noise, advertising, and spectacle. He worked briefly in advertising before publishing his first novel, Americana, in 1971, a book already obsessed with media and identity. Over the next 2 decades, DeLillo became one of the defining voices in postmodern fiction. His breakthrough, White Noise, in 1985 won the National Book Award and captured the absurdity of consumer culture and our fear of death. He followed it with Libra in 1988, a daring reimagining of the JFK assassination, and Mao Tzu in 1991, which explored terrorism and the shrinking role of the novelist in the world dominated by mass movements. Then came Underworld in 1997, often considered his masterpiece, a sweeping Cold War epic that begins with a baseball game and spirals outward to nuclear anxiety, waste, and hidden connections of everyday life. Across all these works, DeLillo examines how technology, politics, and the media shapes human identity, often with dark humor and unsettling clarity. So when we talk about Don DeLillo, we're not just talking about novels, we're talking about a writer who mapped the psychic landscape of the 20th century America, and whose questions about noise, fear, and meaning still resonates today. About Americana itself, at 28, David Bell is living the American dream. He has fought his way to the top, becoming a top television executive who has captivated America's imagination through the images on their flickering screens. At the height of success, David becomes disillusioned with the realities of consumerism and mass media and sets out to rediscover reality and himself. Camera in hand, he journeys across the country in a mad and moving attempt to capture the dogs in there rearranging his bones. To capture and find the meaning of America's past, present, and future, Don DeLillo delivers a witty and incisive exclamation of America's culture, heritage, and complexities of identity in the classic works of modern literature. I have to download this real quick because apparently I can't read it. I'm trying to do this from a script, and my script is funky. Alright. Apologies. So, this book, in ways it almost feels like American Psycho by, Bret Easton Ellis, whatever the guy's name. Like, the first part of it, I just remember reading it like, do none of these people actually work? Because, in American Psycho, none of those guys actually work. All they do is, basically socialize and buy things. And this has that same feeling in the first part. Maybe it doesn't read like a Sears catalog like the American Psycho does, but it still has that same feeling. I'm like, these people don't actually work for a living. They just gossip and try to just one-up each other. But I went into Americana without much hope of it being a good read. Don DeLillo himself said, I don't think my first novel would have been published today as I submitted it. I don't think an editor would have read 50 pages of it. So I'm going into this realizing he didn't really gain much notoriety until the 80s. However, I was pleasantly surprised. Excuse me. I was pleasantly surprised. Is it a perfect novel? No. There were times I was wondering what the heck I was reading, in the same way I was wondering what the heck I was reading when I was reading like On the Road by Jack Kerouac. Kind of has that feel also. However, I let DeLillo take the wheel, and I just went along for the ride. What I took away from Americana, Don DeLillo's debut novel, it reflects on an illusion of media, the instability of identity, and the search for authenticity in a culture saturated with images and consumerism. DeLillo I should really make sure I can say these words before I type them out. Satirizes the emptiness of corporate life and the obsession with celebrity, advertising and consumption as defining features of American society. Apparently, the themes of the media saturation, paranoia, and cultural pathology introduced here is expanded on in White Noise, Libra, and Underworld, making Americana a blueprint for DeLillo's later career. Go into Americana knowing it's not a perfect and polished gem from one of America's literary greats. It's DeLillo's debut, and it shows. But that's part of the charm. It lets the novel take you on a ride through absurdity, media distortion, and existential drift. It's messy, provocative, and surprisingly entertaining. You're not reading it for a tight plotting or resolution. You're reading it to watch the mind begin to unravel the American psyche. And one surreal at times. Yeah, this book, I liked it. I wouldn't say I loved it. I wouldn't say it's a great, but going into it with absolutely no hope that I was going to enjoy it, because like I said, he didn't really gain his traction until the 80s. However, I don't think you need to be a Don DeLillo #Don DeLillo project completionist to read this and enjoy it, and so on and so forth. I think it was definitely an entertaining read, and I highly recommend it. Other than that, I don't know what else to say, so we'll leave it at that. Let me know down below. Have you read Don DeLillo's Americana? What did you think of it? What I get right? What I get wrong? And yeah, I think that's it for this one, peeps. Cheers. I have to my mouse is plugged in because it's dead, so I have to it's going to take me a second to hit stop recording.